Welcome back to The Explainer. Let's get right into it, shall we? Today, we're tearing down a genuinely fascinating case study in rapid infrastructure growth, Garuda Construction. Usually, when we think of heavy civil construction, we picture massive debt, depreciating machinery, and razor-thin margins. But Garuda is completely rewriting that rulebook, and the way they're doing it is something every business enthusiast really needs to understand. 84%. Yeah, you heard that right. That is the staggering jump Garuda recently reported in both their quarterly sales and their net profit. For a brick-and-mortar infrastructure company to post numbers that look more like a Silicon Valley tech startup, well, that absolutely requires our immediate attention. So, how exactly are they pulling this off? Here's the roadmap for today's explainer. First, a teardown of their financials. Second, their core asset-light strategy. Third, end-to-end execution. Then, building a 14-year legacy. And finally, their multi-core future. All right, part one, a financial powerhouse. Just look at these annual figures. For a civil construction firm and a traditionally slow-moving sector, this velocity is wild. For the year ended March 26, sales exploded from 225 crore to 531 crore. That's a 136% jump. Operating profit nearly doubled from 86 to 164 crore, and their net profit surged by an absolutely massive 146%. But here's the real kicker. They're doing all this while expanding their operating margins to over 31%. They aren't just selling more, they're squeezing more profit out of every single rupee they bring in. And this wasn't just some lucky one-off year. They've got a 3-year compounded annual growth rate of 49% for sales. But honestly, the absolute standout metric here, that 41.8% return on capital employed. Meaning, for every 100 rupees they put to work, they're getting nearly 42 rupees back in pure profit. They are practically printing efficiency. Throw in a stock price that shot up 47% in a single year, and it gets even better. Because here is the craziest part. In an industry famous for drowning in debt, they're sitting on just 12 crore in debt versus 408 crore in reserves. They are effectively debt-free. It's also super telling to see who's actually steering the ship. The promoters still hold over 67% of the company. Having that much skin in the game, that shows some massive internal confidence in their own growth trajectory and operational strategy. Moving on to part two, the asset-light advantage. Which brings us to the giant paradox of today's explainer. How exactly does a company build massive physical infrastructure? I'm talking hotels, police headquarters, entire townships, without taking on massive crippling loans to buy all that heavy equipment. The answer is the asset-light business model. Think of it kind of like a ride-sharing app, but for heavy construction. Instead of buying massive fleets of expensive excavators, cranes, and concrete mixers, Garuda just outsources their labor and heavy equipment to third-party contractors. They don't actually want to own the rusting metal. They want to own the management process. This optimizes their operational costs and gives them ultimate flexibility when executing a project. Let's put these side by side. The traditional construction model is all about heavy asset ownership. You buy the cranes, you take on huge debt, and when the market inevitably slows down, well, you're stuck paying interest on machinery that's literally just gathering dust. Garuda flips this entirely. By outsourcing, they shed that debt dependency completely. If a job needs a specific crane, they rent it. When the job's done, the expense vanishes. This hyper-flexible, optimized approach is exactly how they protect those juicy operating margins. All right, part three, end-to-end execution. Now, you might be wondering, if they're outsourcing the heavy equipment and the labor, what exactly is Garuda doing? Well, they act as a comprehensive end-to-end service provider. Let's translate the industry jargon real quick. EPC means they handle the core engineering, the procurement of materials, and the actual construction oversight. MEP covers all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. They handle the complex finishing works too. And finally, O&M means operations and maintenance. So basically, they're managing everything from drafting that very first blueprint to fixing the HVAC system years after the building is done. The real magic is how they orchestrate this entirely outsourced network. It all comes down to a highly precise 3-stage operational pipeline. Step 1 is pre-execution. This is where they do the rigorous feasibility surveys, crunch the cost estimations, and actually win the bid. Step 2 is execution, setting up the site, managing material procurement, and, this is absolutely crucial, approving the vendors. Then, step 3 is construction, overseeing the build, enforcing strict quality compliance, and monitoring progress. Their asset-light model only survives because this project management structure is rock solid. So it's really not just about hard hats and pouring concrete. It's about digital blueprints, precision planning, and incredibly rigid engineering oversight. That management capability is their true competitive moat. Which leads us to part 4, building a 14-year legacy. Those numbers we looked at earlier are wild, but this timeline proves this is no flash-in-the-pan success story. They were incorporated back in 2010, spending over a decade building their reputation under the leadership of CMD Pravin Kumar Agarwal. By 2014, they'd finished the Golden Chariot Vase Hotel. In 2016, they landed a massive marquee project, the Delhi Police Headquarters. Fast forward to today, and they've successfully pivoted from mostly in-house promoter-led projects to aggressively grabbing independent third-party contracts, currently juggling 16 ongoing projects. And they're scaling geographically in a massive way. They aren't just some regional player anymore. They're taking this highly scalable outsourced model across Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, and pushing right into Arunachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, and Tamil Nadu. Their management system just works, completely regardless of state lines. What's even smarter is how they're scaling across multiple sectors: commercial, residential, industrial, and heavy infrastructure. By diversifying like this, they naturally hedge their bets. If residential real estate cools down in one state, their industrial or government contracts just keep that revenue flowing steadily. And finally, part 5, the multi-crore future. So what exactly is coming next down the pipeline for Garuda? Take a second and just absorb this number: 3,461 crore rupees. That's the current size of Garuda's order book. This massive figure is the ultimate validation of their asset-light model, pretty much guaranteeing a highly predictable pipeline of revenue for the foreseeable future. And remember, this 3,461 crore order book isn't some theoretical projection. It's anchored in real, tangible momentum. Backed by the credibility of 26 completed orders, they are actively commanding 16 ongoing projects right now, spanning all those diverse heavy-duty sectors we just talked about: 6 residential, 2 commercial, 1 industrial, and 1 infrastructure. That is a lot of moving parts, all being managed through their super lean, high-margin system. As they keep reimagining the foundations of heavy infrastructure, it really brings this whole story together. Garuda's true asset isn't the steel, the concrete, or the massive cranes. Their actual asset is the intellectual property, the digital and operational system that manages it all. Which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. As we look at the fast-paced future of the construction industry, does true power lie in owning the heavy machinery, or does it lie in brilliantly managing the network? Garuda Construction has certainly made their 3,461 crore bet. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, keep learning.